So, welcome back to Hero-Villain Mashup, where I take one hero and one villain and pretty much give out a scenario of what it'd be like if this hero and this villain were enemies, like if this villain was in this hero's rogues gallery. And I got such a good reception for the first one involving Sonic and the Reverse Flash, I decided to give you guys two more. Because again, I got such a good reception out of the first one, I was like, maybe I'll just shoot out two more and see how those go out. So as you can see from this one, yes, this one is building the scenario of what if Korra and Darth Vader. Yeah, Star Wars versus Avatar, pretty much. So let's look at it this way. Korra and Darth Vader as enemies. What would that be like if, Vader was an enemy for Korra? Now the thing is you got to look at is that Vader has had years and years of training under the Jedi Order and then trained under the Sith. And, he's a master of the Force, the dark side of the Force, as well as he's a great tactician. He's got, the very powerful 501st, pretty much the last clone battalion of the Empire, while the others were recruited. The 501st, better known as Vader's Fist, are under his command, and they are the most elite soldiers in the Empire. Not only that, they have the best resources as well. So, you look at that, and Korra, let's say this is Korra after Book 4. She's very wise now, she's a well-trained avatar, she's still in training though, but she's accomplished so much and mastered most of her bending skills, and she has pretty much, united, all of the nations once again after, the reign of Kuvira. It was a major victory, and she's become wiser. Now, if this was the Korra from, Book 1 and 2, there'd be no, Vader would destroy her. Now, having said that, though, Vader doesn't leave anything to chance. Vader does not, he doesn't go into a battle head first. He's going to study the planet. Let's say the scenario is that the Empire has come to the Avatar's planet, pretty much, to put it under the Empire. They're going to be surprised by bending, but let's face it, the Empire has faced worse. And they have the tech to use it. Now, would they lose soldiers due to the metal bending and lava bending and, fire and all these different kind of bending skills that they weren't probably prepared for in, Empire School. That's what the Imperial Academy, excuse me. And, yeah, that's going to throw them off. So, who's going to come down to help kind of quell that? The 501st and, along them, their leader, Vader. So, they would have, obviously, the biggest problem is the Avatar, who can bend all these elements and become even more powerful. And not only that, I could also see that Vader would want control of, he'd learn about the spirit portals and whatnot, and learn how, and learn about, how Kuvira tried to harness the power of spirit energy and make it a very powerful weapon. What I think Vader would do, commanded by either the Emperor, or after his own gain to try to take over the Empire for himself, Vader would want the spirit power from the spirit world, and this is where the an even bigger major conflict between Korra and Vader comes in. Now the thing is with Vader is that, like I said before, he does not he doesn't rush into a battle. He doesn't go looking for one. The fights come to him pretty easily. Vader's also had years of experience, and he knows how to hurt somebody without even touching them. Korra now has Asami as her girlfriend. She's got Mako and Bolin as friends. She's got, Tenzin's kids, his wife, Lin, Sue, so many people to hurt. There is a ton of people that, Vader could use as leverage against Korra. And Korra, even though she's a lot smarter and a lot, she's become wiser, she's still got a lot to learn. She probably knows that in a first battle between Vader and her and Vader, she would realize pretty quick, oh shit, this guy is a fucking tank. I got to get out of here. Now, there's no denying that in a head-on fight, Korra could probably hold her own against Vader because she's quicker. She's got when she goes in the Avatar state, she may even improve more. But Vader would he'd have people monitoring Korra or, using the Force to sense her strength. And, yeah, he would go into this, even with the Avatar state, I think Vader would give her a run for her money. And anything if she threw rocks at him, zoop, lightsaber, or catch it with the Force, throw it right back at her, Force choker, all that. All of that. And he is a very... Vader also is... he's cunning, he's very deceitful. He'll probably know that he won't be able to keep pace with Korra, and what he'll probably do is, like I said again, leverage. That's always, you turn yourself in, or I shoot Asami in the head, or I have my troopers shoot her in the head. Let's also not forget that. Remember what I said about the 501st Legion? Yeah, those guys are veterans of the Clone Wars. They know how to take somebody down. And Vader, once again, not underestimating his opponents, would probably have a few of those guys behind him. Now, let's look at this at Korra's point of view, because I've talked a lot about Vader. Let's talk about in Korra's point of view of what Vader would be like to her. So, to Korra, this would be like an opponent who is similar to a mixture of... she would look at him a lot like Kuvira, but, unlike Kuvira, I would even imagine that, Korra would even try to talk to Vader, and Vader would be like, save your prattling for someone else. The dark side is the only thing will be the only thing I ever listen to. That was bad, but paraphrasing, that would be something akin to what Vader would say. He would not be interested in peace talks. He would just be interested in getting what the Empire wants, or rather, better put, what he wants out of the whole situation. That's the better question. Now, Korra. Let's also look at the other crippling fact that because obviously, again, this would probably be an invasion of how Vader and Korra would meet. The technology that the Empire has is light years ahead of what the people of Korra's world have. They have, it's very much 20 steampunk kind of era, but in hindsight, in real hindsight, they're ants compared to what the Empire have. I mean, hell, the Empire could just take Vader could just take his personal Star Destroyer and just start just sending barrages of laser fire down on the planet. He wouldn't even need to come down there unless, he would really see it necessary. They could just keep bombing the planet with Star Destroyers or TIE bombers, really. Now, this would also have to be an underground war between the Empire, Korra and the others. They would not be able to take the Empire and Vader head on. Let's also not forget that let's not count out in this war between these two different worlds. They have one thing that the Empire doesn't have: bending, and they could easily hold their own. But technologically speaking, they are they pale in comparison to what the Empire has, and Korra and the others, they're going to be trying to fight smart. They're going to have to take the fight underground. They're going to have to, steal weapons, something like that. They won't be able to reverse engineer it. Even with Varric and Asami, trying to figure out how these weapons work, they wouldn't be able to figure it out for 100 years? Yeah. But in other cases, I could definitely see Korra, when peace talks break down, and trust me, they're gonna break down. Korra realizes that Vader is an opponent she cannot underestimate. She wields a power that she has never even encountered. She's never encountered anything like the Force, let alone someone who uses it for the dark side. That's going to be devastating for her. When she feels that Force choke on her throat, she better go in the Avatar state real quick and, knock Vader back or something, because Vader's just going to keep coming again and again and again, no matter how much damage he sustains. And again, Vader's going to realize, the Avatar is a very powerful opponent, but she still has weaknesses. She can still be killed. She also has people he can, use against her. It's not like, and again, I'm going by Vader in between episodes 3 and 4. So this Vader would have nothing to lose. He has got nothing that, Korra can use against him. And, Korra's going to realize, I can't take this guy in a head-on fight. He is, he may be slower than me, but that power he wields is nothing, is like unlike anything I've ever faced. So Korra is gonna have to, play it smart and try to, get Vader somewhere where she can use a lot of her, bending skills to the best of her ability and away from the 501st Legion, because I can tell you right now, Vader again would not take on Korra without, some extra backup, just in case. Among other things, let's also look at it that that the Empire is vast and has a lot of money, a ton of money, so they could keep this campaign going for years. But on the other hand, they know, the people of Korra's planet, the four nations, they know, not only are they pretty much united at this point, you've got the Northern Water Tribe, the Southern Water Tribe, the independent Earth Kingdom states, and the Fire Nation in Republic City. You've got all of that, and they're all finally working together now, so they can finally, coexist and put up a very strong fight. So they could put up some guerrilla warfare, and united together, they may be able to stand a chance, but still, this is the Empire, the all-consuming machine of the galaxy. Yikes! So, yeah, would be an interesting face-off if the Empire was an empire. Well, if Korra and Vader were enemies, this would probably be something like that. So, you guys tell me, what do you guys think the rivalry between Korra and Darth Vader would be like? Do you think it'd be something akin to this? What do you think the Empire and fighting the four nations on a whole would be like as well? Really curious to know what you guys think of this one, and stay tuned because I've got another really cool one headed your way next. So once again, stay tuned.